You guys, can you believe you can do all of that with just the belt squat machine? What's going on, guys? Andrew Fillion here, and today I got exciting news. My gym just got a belt squat machine. If you've never seen one of these, it's an incredible piece of equipment that allows you to squat without any pressure on the back or the spine because the belt goes around your waist. You're able to squat very heavy and very deep without any real risk to your central nervous system. So I'm going to take you guys to the gym. I'm going to show you a bunch of different awesome variations you can do with a belt squat. The belt squat can be kind of scary if you've never used it before, but don't worry. I'm going to show you guys how to set it up, how to use it. And once you've seen one belt squat, you've seen basically all of them. So even if you've got a different brand or a different setup, it should work equally as well for you. So with that, guys, let's head to the gym and start squatting. You guys are going to be amazed at all the fun stuff that you can do with this. All right, so here we are. This right here is the belt squat. This thing is an amazing machine. It has a very good purpose. Because it's a belt going around your waist, when you're doing a belt squat, there's no tension on the spine or on the upper body, which is very, very good for people that might have shoulder injuries or prior back injuries, spine injuries. All of these things are a moot issue when it comes to the belt squat. If it's your first time seeing a contraption like this, it can be kind of difficult to wrap your head around, but once you get used to it, it's very simple. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you guys how to get it set up, and then I'm going to take you through a bunch of really cool variations you can do with the belt squat so that you can get the most out of it. What's so cool about this contraption is that there's more than just one way to do the belt squat. You can actually get very creative with it. So stay tuned, watch the whole thing, because some of these movements might surprise you. All right, so if this is your first time seeing a contraption like this, typically the belt is going to come separate, but some belt squat machines might actually have the belt in a fixed position. If you have a belt squat that's got the belt detached from the machine, you can take it off. There's typically going to be rings down here at the bottom that you can attach to. The closer that you attach the belt, the closer to the apparatus you're going to get. So depending on your height, it might make sense for you to go more in or more out. As I'm a taller gentleman myself, I'm going to usually go between either the third or fourth rings here. If you're shorter, go ahead, move there. So to set it up, we simply just feed the chain through this hole here. Feed that chain through and get this thing nice and hooked in. So you'll be able to see here, this is now ready to get loaded on. So now I'm going to show you a standard way of getting into the machine. It can be tricky. You're going to have to go at it from a specific angle, especially if the belt is already strapped in. So one thing to notice, if you're putting on the belt and the chain itself is actually too long, you want to make sure that you shorten the chain. Try to make that chain as short as you can because it's going to come really in handy when you pull those grips right there. You need to be able to lift the weight high enough to get the release to go out. But you also need to be able to get the weight high enough for the release to go back in once you've completed your set. So make sure that this is actually relatively short. I'm going to show you how to shorten it now. So now with the belt shortened, what I like to do is step into it from outside of the box. I'll go in feet first, touching the floor. I'll pull the belt up to my waist, and then I'm going to reach for those handles up top and treat it kind of like a football sled. I'm going to really go in there low and step into it, and I'll show you what that looks like. So getting in and out of this can be a little awkward. Once you're in position, usually the hooks will automatically retract once you lift the weight up. If they don't, your belt squat should have handles that you can pull to pull those hooks back. Do as many reps as you need to do. When you're done with your set, move your hands from the support handles back down to the retraction handles. Pull both of them at the same time to return the weight. Getting off the belt squat is a lot easier than getting on. Just simply step back and pull the belt down. It's a little goofy getting in and out of, but once you're in there and you're set up, this thing is a powerhouse. So I'm going to show you guys a few different variations that you can do. We'll start with the very standard basic belt squat. So like I've been saying, I like to step in from outside of the box. This makes it so much easier to get situated, especially when you shorten the chain. It's good to keep that chain as short as you can so that you can get it in and out of the apparatus while squatting. But onto the actual squat, notice that I've got my feet at a 10 and 2 position. This is just like a regular squat, but it allows you to get so much deeper. What you see right here for me is actually quite effortless. Now on a normal barbell squat, this would be pretty difficult to go that deep, especially if you're fighting through any sort of hip injury, spine injury, things like that. This just helps eliminate all of those factors. You can get so deep with the belt squat. Now, something I really enjoy, it depends on if your gym has these or not, but if they do, these wedges right here that are about 3 inches tall, you put them down, it adds an insane amount of depth to your belt squat. It allows you to go much deeper than what the machine normally allows for. This is something that could be really good if you're trying to get a full deep stretch to get into that frog-like position. So I'll show you guys with a quick demonstration. All the other cues are the same. We're going to approach the belt squat from outside of the box, put the belt on through there, step through, lunge/tackle the handlebars. Then we get into position, put our feet on the blocks, and we are good to go. I'll show you guys right now what that looks like. So with wedges like these, it's really kind of optional. It really depends on a few factors. If your belt squat machine doesn't go low enough on its own, or if you're just especially tall, these wedges can really help you get to that deep squat. But everything else is really the same. It's just a standard squat with a little bit more elevation to it. Lets you get that deeper stretch. As you'll be able to see in this, I do get pretty low, but at the same time, I don't really like that my back was rounding like that. So this is just sort of if you need it. Not every single person is going to find a wedge like this to be applicable. But if you're especially tall, if your gym has one of these, I highly recommend you utilize it. Just use all the tools in your arsenal to get the job done. Now, if you want to do this in a way that's going to be more quad dominant, there's another platform that you can use if your gym has it, would be these triangular wedges. This is going to put a lot more emphasis on the front and the exterior quads, especially if you stand in a narrow stance. That will hit these bad boys right here. So if you want to get bigger outer quads, this right here is going to be a killer for doing that. I'll show you what that looks like right here. Okay, so this one I actually really enjoyed. So a lot of times when you're squatting, you don't get the most activation out of the lower quads, like right down by the knee. If you really want to get that teardrop, doing these with your feet elevated so that your heel is above the toes, it puts so much emphasis on the quads, especially if you go with a narrow stance, which this kind of does by default. You get that exterior quad, hits it so hard. Of all the variations I did in this video, I'd say this is probably the one that I think you could get the most value out of. There are some movements later on in this episode that I think are also really good, but as far as getting really good isolation on those outer quads, I feel like this right here is actually undefeated. It's probably something that I would highly recommend you program in if you're trying to get specific. Other than that, the squat's not too crazy. You gotta keep your toes forward as opposed to the regular squat where you're going at it wide. Aside from that, just get nice and deep and feel that crazy burn. All right, now for this next one, we're gonna do these single-legged. I took some of the weight off. You're not gonna wanna go too heavy on this next one. We're gonna do one-legged squats. It's going to be very reminiscent of a Bulgarian split squat, but it's going to be mechanically a little different. You'll see that when I shoot it. It can be a little awkward, so start low and work your way up. This is absolutely killer. So for the single-legged squat, I think there's a lot of value to it, but it is something that you will have to kind of mess around with and try to work it out. The thing about it is that the chain in this video, at least for me, was rubbing up against my thigh, which was kind of painful, not in the sense that you know, the muscle wasn't getting worked or anything like that, but just having that chain rubbing up against my skin. I just didn't really like it that much, but you could definitely make the chain not like a triangle shape and just have one like single focal point for the attachment. I think that would clean that up. I didn't do it for this video, so it's something I would probably experiment more with. But as far as the movement itself goes, you do get a pretty intense burn. It's just like doing a Bulgarian split squat, but with a little more work, I guess. Go ahead and give it a try, see what you think. So keeping with that same idea, we can also do reverse lunges. But with the reverse lunge, instead of trying to really stay top shelf, top to bottom, you're allowed to bring that foot all the way back and really try to get a deep stretch of the hamstrings. I'll show you what that looks like right here. Okay, so the reverse lunges actually really work out well with this. I like this a lot. I'd probably put it in my top 3 as far as the belt squat goes. So just like a normal reverse lunge, you want to step off the platform like I'm doing here. Now, as you'll see later on in the video, I do get a little bit more comfortable with it and I start going for deeper stretches. Those deeper stretches really hit hard. And look, I only had 25 pounds on either side. With this contraption, you can put on so much more weight than what I was doing. It's unbelievable. Now, really right here, you can start to see I get those deeper stretches. Yeah, like that. That one right there. I'm really happy with how these ones turned out. I could definitely see this being a staple in my program if I wanted to use this belt machine a little bit more frequently. Highly recommend doing the reverse lunge out of these. All right, now let's go to the glute drive. So to do the glute drive, we simply just don't stand on the platform. We take a nice wide stance from behind, and that alone gets you set up. So I'll show you just what that looks like. This one's a lot easier to get set up in, which is kind of nice. But the key factor here is this is going to be more of an emphasis on the glutes. Let's get into it. All right, so for the glute drive, everything else is pretty much the same. The only difference is that you don't actually step up on the platform. Aside from that, you get in nice and deep, keep that back straight as you can, and kind of lean forward like you're about to do a tackle. It doesn't look like a whole lot's going on here. The range of motion's not that crazy, but don't let it fool you. This was an insane pump on the glutes, and I'm only doing 45 pounds on each side on here. If I had this thing loaded up 4 plates, 5 plates, maybe even 6 plates, you can quickly start to see how you're going to be getting an insane amount of fatigue generated in your glutes. This would probably go in my top 3. If I were to rank them all up, this is right up there with the reverse lunges and the triangle wedges. Definitely recommend doing the glute drive. So went through a few different variation of quads, did some glutes, also did a couple reverse lunges. Now let's get into the calves. You can use the belt squat as a donkey kick calf raise. I'll show you what that looks like in a second here. But basically what we're going to do is get our back flat as a table and use the calves to raise our body. Now we want to make sure our feet are at the end of the platform so that we can get our heel below the platform. That's going to give you a really good stretch on the calf muscle. I'll show you guys what that's going to look like. All right, so for the calf raises, pretty interesting setup. You want to get in there like a donkey. Keep that back as flat as you can. Get those toes all the way to the edges and get those heels underneath the platform. This right here is really, really excellent for the calves. We're hitting the gastrocnemius right here. Later on, you're going to see I tuck my knees. Oh, right now I'm doing single leg. Single leg, very nice. Very nice. But, ooh, look at the separation there. I really like that. That's good. Now, in a few seconds here, you're going to see me drop down. I'm going to get down kind of like an egg. And you're going to see that I'm now hitting the soleus. I'm hitting the soleus because my knees are bent. But I'm not quite there yet. Okay, there we go. Yep. Now I'm hitting the soleus. You can do this. It's... I'd probably just go on like an actual calf machine for this particular one. But the donkey ones did work pretty well. Either way, you've got options. It's very versatile. You can make it work for you if you want it to. Altogether, we've isolated our quads, hamstrings, glutes, and our calves with just a belt squat. Now granted, some of these movements might work better on other machines, I won't argue that, but I do think it's fascinating that one machine can be so versatile. I really like the belt squat, especially because if you have shoulder problems or spinal problems, you can still squat and you can actually go very, very heavy. This was just a tutorial video, but if I was training for real, I would put anywhere between 3 and 5 plates on this thing myself. But don't want to do that for the tutorial. I will do that later this week. I want to show you guys one more exercise. I know this is going to look like I'm being funny, but I'm being serious. Give this a try. What I'm about to do is a chest exercise. We're going to be doing a weighted push-up using the belt squat. I'm not messing around. This thing is actually fire. It's very hard to set up, so forgive me if it takes me a minute to get set up. But once I'm going, you'll see this is the real deal. So I won't lie to you guys, some of this was kind of screwy. I had a lot of trouble getting the chain short enough, and what ends up happening is that red piece kept hitting the floor way before my chest was fully stretched. But that being said, I cannot stress enough, the concentric on this is insane. And what that means is when you're at the very top of the push-up, that's the concentric, when the chest is fully contracted. That was a gnarly pump. Even though this looks weird, and I probably wouldn't do it like as a normal routine, if you're just looking for ways to diversify your program, this will hit the concentric so ridiculously hard. Even though it looks screwy, it did kind of work. It kind of works. So the setup is goofy. What I found worked best was getting the chain around the middle and just having one focal point from the chest going through the contraption. I'm gonna have to put it back on the rack after this, but the chest pump is fire. It is kind of a pain to set up, so set it up at your discretion. I'm sure people are gonna look at you weird if you do it. Whatever. Well, hey guys, there you go. There you have it. That's the belt squat. I love the machine. It's a little janky to get started with, but once you get comfortable in there, you can do a lot of cool things with it. Go ahead and let me know if you found variations on your own that you think I could add to this or to a future video. I always love getting feedback like that. Aside from that, go ahead and like the video, and as always, subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and leave a comment if you had a good time. And with that, guys, I'm going to see you in the next one. Peace.